Hi, everybody. We're going to keep Ambassador right this way. You have reserved seating, Ambassador. Absolutely. Thank you, everybody, for coming. We're going to be a little hurried because at 4 o'clock, there's this chair installation ceremony, and if I'm not there, I've been told by the powers that be here they may take the chair away, which wouldn't make Alicia and John very happy, and the dean not happy. So we're going to do a sort of a speed version of this. And welcome to my second bar mitzvah. And being a Reformed Jew, I've decided to do things a bit differently here today. So rather than me waxing on ineloquently and trying to pretend to be an expert about what the keys to the code are for the future of education, I thought it would be better for you to hear from those on the front lines who are doing amazing things in front of you. You've got a program, so we can dispense with all the traditional, who are these extraordinary people? But they are extraordinary people. And I wanted to bring them here because we are at this pivotal inflection point in education and in medicine. And in the last few decades, we've learned more about the brain than we have in the whole of human history, yes? And it sounds obvious, understanding the human mind as it relates to teaching and learning, it has to be core to everything that education does. We're a little intimidated about what we don't know or understand, and that's why I asked Mary Helen to come, because she has a wonderful way of being able to illuminate and be able to hit the issues in a unique way. And she's a very special person that, beyond her brilliance, the only thing that matches her brilliance in the field is her excitement about what she does. Someone once told me, when you meet with her, don't get her coffee. Do not. That is big. Matter meets antimatter. Poof. But she's an extraordinary faculty member here. And Mary Helen, maybe share a little about your world.
Thanks, John. First, congratulations to you. This is really quite an honor to come here and talk to you. So should I just jump right in? Sure. So what I thought I would start with is kind of where this project starts in my mind, which is at the level of the brain and the body, and how they come together to make a mind. And my work focuses on the neurobiology of that interactive process between the brain and the mind, and how we come to have what we would describe as conscious experience. The ability to be aware of the person whom we are, the story of our people, the story of our self, the story of our relationships, and this part is really uniquely human, the ability to imagine the future. It's really about our ability to engage ourselves in this kind of mental time travel that is the essence of the human conscious experience. We are about stories, and stories engage us in a way that they don't engage any other creatures on this earth, and they have the power to move us and to make us think and to make us do things that nothing else can. Maybe I could have the slides, please. Wonderful. The idea behind my work is that we set out to study social emotion. We set out to study for the first time the neurobiological processes that allow us to engage with other people and that allow us to have a sense of self. And we first started studying emotions like compassion, emotions like admiration, inspiration, the kinds of emotions that have the power to really move people to do things that matter, right? The kind of emotions that are the holy grail in educational context. If you can inspire teachers, if you can inspire kids, and if you can design technologies and ways of teaching that engage kids in ways that actually help them make that information part of who they are or who they want to be in the future, you have the power to actually change the world. And I start my talk now at the end and go back to the beginning. This is a painting by Margaret Lazari. She's the chair of the Fine Arts Department here at USC and a good friend of mine. And I love this painting for what it says visually about how I understand the human mind and the human brain. So if you look at this in real life, this is like a huge 6 by 8 foot seascape that's vibrant colors, and she's got this sort of sloshing white wrinkly stuff in the middle, which to me looks like clouds and to my daughter looks like waves. What it actually is a picture of Margaret's brain. She came to our Brain and Creativity Institute. She let us put her in the scanner and we took pictures. of what we call the white matter in her brain. Not all the little cells around the outside, all the little neurons that we think of as doing the thinking, but we kind of took the picture and peeled those off, right? We peeled them off the picture, not off the lady. Don't worry. And then what's left are the billions, literally billions, of interconnected microscopic little tubes of salt water that connect themselves into these networks that allow her, by virtue of her genetic predispositions, by virtue of her experiences, by virtue of her physical world that she's lived in, to build what we would call a self. This is the self that she has constructed out of all of her genetic and biological and social and cultural propensities. And what I love about this brain is that Margaret hasn't painted it sort of in a bucket in the corner, kind of like, let's all stare at this and see if we can study it and poke it and see what happens and how we could change it and make it better. What she's done is painted this brain sort of semi-translucent in the space of a huge, vibrant seascape of life. She's got it sort of floating in this ocean with the sun shining down on the top of it, warming it, and these little red fish swimming by to represent the spontaneity of our creative and original ideas. She's got little weeds growing up and poking the bottom of it and sloshing back and forth in this ocean of life. And that is how I think about the brain. That is how I study the brain, and that's how I want you to think about the brains of the children you care about whom we're working here to educate, to design better experiences for. What we are thinking about when we're designing educational experiences for children is, how do I make this ocean? How do I support and bolster and allow that child to thrive within that living context, and not as separate from it, but as part of it and as interdependent with it? Can I have the next slide? So I'm just going to very quickly show you some of the really most poignant discoveries that we've made using neuroimaging to study people's reactions to complex social stories with strong moral content. So these are stories, I don't have time to tell you one today, but they're stories that involve hugely inspiring overcoming of obstacles. They're stories that involve compassion. They're all true stories. They're stories of real people's lives. We have real people telling us their stories, and we make sort of pseudo-documentaries, like little documentaries about these. We show these to people in an interview and ask them how they feel, and then we move them into the scanner, and we take pictures of their brain, and we record their heart rates and their skin sweating on the bottoms of their feet, and their respiration and their brain activity, and we record, at the same time as we're showing them these stories, their real-time reports of their subjective experience, what they are consciously aware of experiencing in relation to this story. And what we found is that, contrary to early hypotheses in which the human social mind was kind of separate from our ability to manage our biological survival in a very basic sense. You know, we've got sort of brain stem structures sticking down the bottom there in the middle. You see, this is a head this way, sliced through the middle of the nose, right? Slice the picture, not the person, again, just to be sure. And that stuff, you know, we share with alligators, okay? And this stuff down in the brainstem, if you get damage in there, you get all kinds of profound disturbances of consciousness. You literally get coma and persistent vegetative state. And if you get damage down at the medulla, which is right above the spinal cord there, that first little lump that makes our central nervous system, if you get damage in there, we cannot even keep you alive on life support. Okay, short of defibrillating your heart with every beat, you become completely dysregulated as an organism and you die. We wanted to know, when people say that they feel moved, physically moved by other people's situations with moral content, when they feel inspired, when they feel compassionate, when they want to go help, when they want to change the world. People tell us things like, her story is amazing, and it makes me wonder, what could I be doing with my life to make the world a better place? We wanted to know, people are reporting actually activating their real selves. Is this just sort of metaphor at the level of, you know, cerebral cortex way up at the top of the head, where, you know, we've got so much more of all this big stuff behind our foreheads than any other, you know, mammal or primate on Earth? Or is this really something that's running deeply into the very survival mechanisms that sustain the biology of our life processes? Can I have the next slide? This is basically just a map of orange spots where there is statistically, reliably more activity, more blood flowing when people say, I am hugely moved by this story right now, as compared to when they say, I'm not that moved by this. I'm paying attention, I'm interested, this is nice, but I wouldn't say that I really find it that compelling. And unbeknownst to them, there are actually stories mixed in which are meant not to be as compelling. Also true, also interesting. But what I want you to notice is that the experience of feeling these complex, acculturated emotions is not just happening at the top level of the cortex where we think we're educating to all this high-level thought stuff. We are literally changing the survival mechanisms of the very bodily regulation of that person as an organism. We are literally, arguably, changing the way in which they are surviving in that moment. And that, to me, is the reason why education is so incredibly poignant and important to the future of society. Because what we're teaching is people to be able to make complex, ethical, critical, and novel and innovative meaning out of complex situations that face us every day, and to be able to react in nuanced and very reflective ways that will actually reflect their ability to take custody or custodianship of the world into the future. And that's what we actually want from our children, and that's actually what this endowed chair position is about at its base. It's about designing learning experiences for kids that foster that kind of thinking that literally moves us. So can I have the last slide? So basically the lesson, there's my little nephew here looking out at us, right, is that we live our lives by, as a kind of, ourselves are a kind of a trampoline or a springboard for imagining and vicariously living in the lives of other people. We use our own experiences and our own memories as a way to make meaning out of other people's experiences and to decide how we should be as human beings. And the very same emotions that historically through evolution have served to keep us off the edges of cliffs and out of the mouths of tigers and to make us procreate and all these things that you have to do to survive are literally being co-opted again now biologically, literally co-opting the very same mechanisms that we share with alligators in order to have emotions that are uniquely human, like inspiration and awe and compassion and gratitude. These very, very complex emotions. It's as if our human survival and our wellness are now no longer confined to our bodily survival and wellness. We now have created a kind of a social survival, a kind of cultural wellness, and it's that children need to be brought into for them to survive and to flourish. And so I, from here, say that basically what we've got is a cultural system in which we are driven to represent our emotions and our meaning, in which we're driven to understand why and to try to make things the way that we believe they should be. And through this comes all the blossoming of our educational enterprises, including through art and through historical analyses and through literature and through music and through film and through all of the means that we have at our disposal, that we have created as a species to move one another and to share these kinds of motivated, inspired states.
Now you see why I asked her to explain this instead of me. Bob Santelli, a good friend who once upon a time I met during Snowmageddon, or we knew each other, and he had me stuck back there with him for a week in D.C. Bob does it when Mary Helen was talking about some of the entertainment literacies and was talking about music. When I think about music and I think about education, I think about people who have been doing extraordinary things day in, day out. And Bob Santelli, as the director of the Grammy Museum, is the original Rolling Stone that does education. So, Bob.
Thanks. First of all, you should run for office. You got me sweaty just listening to you. Well, if you were talking about the brain, I'm going to talk about the soul, okay? And since I couldn't find any pictures of the soul, I get a pass on the slides. So I'm going to just tell you about exactly what we do and how the soul, not just of kids, but the soul of America plays into the Grammy Museum's educational initiative. When you think of the Grammys, and of course, it should be still relatively fresh in your mind. It just occurred just a couple of weeks ago, the Grammy Awards, 57th. The Grammy Award epitomizes the apex of artistic excellence. This, if you win a Grammy, even if you are nominated for a Grammy, this is something that never leaves you. It is like winning a Heisman Award if you were a football athlete. But this is something also for us, it represents, as I said, artistic excellence. And the reason why, there are lots of awards musicians can win, but the Grammy Awards, very quickly, is peer voted on. In other words, it's not, has nothing to do with popularity, doesn't have to do with sales of records or units sold, downloads, or anything like that. It's about the art itself. So at the Grammy Museum, what we do is we use the Grammy Award as pretty much our source of inspiration. And when kids come through the Grammy Museum, more than 30,000 each year, we basically try to unravel the mysteries of the making of great music, because really the Grammy is great music. In any kind of, you may only see 9 of the awards or so on television, but in reality we give out close to 80. They're happening all day long. It is a TV show, so we just take the most popular ones that you see, but there are awards for all kinds of music forms. What we try and do at the Grammy Museum, and what we do with our programs, is to, A, look at that Grammy Award and have kids strive for excellence in whatever it is that they're interested in. Many of them, of course, are interested in music, and that is our forte, and so we pick the creative arts. But we're fine with working with kids who are interested in computers, kids who are interested in being accountants. The idea is to strive for excellence and to use musicians who have won Grammy Awards or been nominated for Grammy Awards and tell their stories to give them a sense of inspiration, if nothing else. We require kids who go through our programs to have a dream. We want them to define it. We want them to tell us what it is that they want to accomplish. Just like most people who make recordings, their ultimate goal, aside from being rich and famous, is to win a Grammy Award at some point. And many artists go through their entire careers, hugely popular artists, and never, not only not winning a Grammy Award, but not even being nominated. We happen to think that at the Grammy Museum and a number of music museums that now are all across the country, there's almost 50 of them now, Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, Country Music Hall of Fame, you may know some of them, perhaps have been to some of them. We think it's important because when you look at American cultural history, and you look at the 20th century, for instance, if you were to analyze the amount of music forms and the great music that America has produced in the 20th century alone, you would be astounded to realize that that amount of music, no other society, no other history, no other culture, no other country compares to it. That's not to say that Austria and Germany and England and other great countries in Europe and elsewhere haven't had the opportunity to have masters, Beethoven, Bach, Mozart, others, or having great folk music forms. They all do, and that's no disrespect to any of them. But in America, in the 20th century, we created, off the top of my head, ragtime, jazz, soul, gospel, rhythm and blues, rock and roll, funk, hip hop, and then I could break them all down. There's probably 10 or 11 different kinds of jazz forms, all having their own distinct personalities and musical personalities. So in the end, what we say and what we teach is that music is an undeniable reflection of who we are as Americans. And people say, well, we have great music traditions, yes, but you have something truly special. And people often ask me, why is it? Well, what's so special about America that gives us this incredible music tradition? And there are really 2 things in particular to summarize something that's very complex in just a minute. And that is, number 1, being a nation of immigrants, we have drawn from all cultures all around the world. People come with their interest in folk music from, or pop music from their respective countries and cultures, and it's like a big melting pot. You pour it in and all of a sudden all kinds of great things come out. We're a heterogeneous society. Second is we have this unique situation in this country where black and white culture has really been, race has been one of the primary stories of who we are as Americans. Well, that's especially true in music as well. And that creative tension that existed and continues to exist between black and white, beautiful creative tension, allows for some of the greatest music ever made in this world. coming from America, primarily in the 20th century, and we're showing no signs of slowing down now. So in the end, what happens is kids come to our museum. We work with them one-on-one with that artistic excellence and that sense of creativity and encourage them to dig deep to unravel the mysteries behind the making of great music. We do that by stressing critical thinking and other aspects, working with teachers to make sure that it's a deep and meaningful experience that they get when they come through to the Grammy Museum, primarily through interactives and technology, where we're allowing them to get deep, to go underneath the music, if you will. The second thing is that we teach them also about this incredible music tradition. Even though we have great theater, this is a city, of course, of music and movies, and our film tradition is second to none in the world as well, but it's music that we're about, so we stress that you are impacted, whoever you are, student. You are impacted by the music that you listen to, and we try to explain to them how they are impacted by the music. We try to explain to them that music in our history has acted as an agent for cultural and political change in this country. Civil rights movement would not have happened and been successful without music. Anyone who was on the front lines will tell you it was the music that gave them the courage to move forward as they're going against fire hoses, dogs, etc. So all of this works into an experience at the Grammy Museum for young people that hopefully allows them to be inspired, to be informed, and for us to allow them to interpret what they just experienced at the Music Museum for a full-on, comprehensive, educational experience that we hope they'll take home into their communities. And then the goal for us is to follow them back into their communities with follow-up programs, whatever it is, from the White House on down. So we're 6 years old. We still got a lot to accomplish, but thanks to partnerships with USC, Grammy Museum and USC have an official affiliation. There are 8 universities that we are affiliated with around the country, USC being the only one in this part of the country. But thanks to people like Chris Sampson and others from Thornton School of Music, we continue to create collaborative programs that not only benefit USC students, but the entire community as well. Thank you.
We're going to skip the video then.
Yeah, because I think you're running out of time.
Yes.
Yeah.
So thinking about awards, so most of us were tuned in on Sunday night for the Hollywood Festival, better known as the Academy Awards. And Amy is here, and I would be remiss if I didn't acknowledge Joanne Ash, who is the founder of Journalism Film here. And Journalism Film is a project of the Lear Center. I think Marty Kaplan, who runs the Lear Center, is here. Marty? Hello, Marty. With cool sunglasses, but he doesn't have them on right. But Amy, share with us a little bit about Journalism Film and what you're doing to change the education landscape.
I'd like to start with the clips if we could. They're not too long.
什么叫民主？
不知道，什么意思啊？
什么叫投票？什么叫投票？
投票，投票，投票，投票。Ikan musuh ketuk keciknya, murah. 내가 kentucky 치킨이라고 했잖아, 프라이드. 누가 물에 빠뜨리래? 그것도 모르면서. 몰라, kentucky 치킨, 갤러기 치킨. 저기 자리.
چرا خیسه؟
من دیگه این کفشا رو نمیپوشم.
گفتم چرا خیسه؟
افتاد تو جوب.
حالا من چطوری با این کفش خیس به مدرسه؟
خب تقصیر من چه کفشا شده پام در میاد.
خوب بامونو گیر آوردی ها.
من تقصیر تو کفشامو گم کردی. یه کفشامو پیدا میکنی یا به بابا میگم.
인터관 가게다. 동선다. 당신이 기회가 살다. 돌아다서 그.
Why are so many people in the village getting sick? Kulapho ngifunde khona ukuthi abantu babulawa yini. Kumele sitshele abantu.
If I had a son, I'd want him to be just like you.
These were hours of pure joy, as much as you can call joy in camp.
Here they were, surrounded by man's worst, and these Jewish prisoners were determined to remind everyone of man's best. And I brought the Verdi here because I want to assure these people that we've heard them.
Welcome to Journeys in Film. If you're one of the lucky students to have taken these journeys in film, you would have traveled to China and to Tibet, met an ancient grandmother and a tired tribal elder trying to make sense of the decimation of AIDS. And you would have even traveled in time to a concentration camp in Nazi Germany and found one more reason to never forget. 65% of people are visual learners. Add to that the increasing amount of visual communication among all our students as they share photos with Instagram or Snapchat or videos with Vine. Film is not a passive activity. We know there is no power like storytelling, and film can be the basis for engaging hands-on informative activities. And yet, we still lack a comprehensive and deliberate plan for film education in the United States. In today's standards-driven classroom, film must contribute to improving student competencies. Our program uses carefully selected films in our design of a multidisciplinary curriculum aligned with Common Core standards, one that transforms entertainment into the energy that motivates all real learning. We have seen this energy in the more than 800,000 middle school students who have been through the Journeys in Film program. And our research supports its positive effects on key metrics like increased curiosity about the world and acceptance of cultures other than their own. The ability to analyze film and media teaches critical thinking skills, vitally important as our children consume film across devices and genres. But our teachers need to be trained to work with film in the classroom. To quote Don Levy, a visiting scholar at USC, in a world where we have the power to tell anything in fact or fiction, true literacy is realized with the power to tell the difference. Journeys in Film transforms entertainment media into educational media, engaging students in active learning. These films are sometimes a kind of cultural care package, or they are socially relevant films that teach about a broad range of social issues in real-life settings. Selected films are used as springboards in the Journeys in Film curriculum. In a world history class, the film Children of Heaven offers insights into the people of Iran, beyond those on the nightly news. Social studies teachers introduce physical, human, and cultural geographies. In language arts, students learn about plot structure, characterization, setting, theme, and symbolism. Art is integrated into the curriculum. Math lessons include probability and statistics, graphing, the concept of infinity, and the mathematics behind an epidemic. Students in earth science learn about the forces behind earthquakes. Biology students about the echolocation ability of whales. Anatomy students about the mechanics of the human voice. Our lessons help students deal with their own world through topics presented in these films, the global becoming the personal. We can influence a whole generation to be more open, empathetic, and ignited with the desire to engage with the world by teaching with film. There is no more important journey for education to take. Thank you.
So when we think about the brave new worlds of entertainment literacies, the first thing, the constant these days is you'll hear about games. And we're here in the audience today. We have some friends from the University of Oregon, CTL, doing wonderful things. Tracy Fullerton, maybe here doing extraordinary work. All these folks doing amazing things, and we were lucky enough to get Lucian, who with Game Desk I think is going to give us an eye-opening look into where we are and where we're going.
Thank you. So it's really fascinating to be here with you guys and to hear about the power of what we hear and the power of what we can see and the power of how the mind can integrate experience. And Game Desk's work really focuses on experience and the power of experience to render a deeply connected, personal, and involved experience in the process of learning. And so I'm going to show you some videos here of our work over the past 5 years. And what you're going to see is you're going to see a variety of approaches, from role play to simulation to full immersion to game-based architectures to kids building, making, designing, interacting in highly social, highly individual, and in large-scale community environments. But the one thing that all of these experiences share is that they focus on creating a connection and an experience that is fundamentally interactive and connected to something that activates, opens the person. And so with that, let's take a little cruise through this world. And we're going to start very low-tech, and we're going to get kind of up to Star Trek by the end. Can you go full screen there?
When armies advance on Babylon, you must vanquish them.
So here, better than reading about history, why not live in history? So these kids are living in Mesopotamia.
We were presented with a ton of cases, and we were really given the opportunity to judge the cases based on the Dakota Hammurabi.
My person was named Dungi. He wanted to be the best grain merchant in the land. I had to have Clay write the trades and record them.
It's just really fun to be in like the shoes of a merchant. They used the barter system back then. They would trade with the other tribes and they'd come together and they'd make like social conventions.
We saw the different things that they developed for farmers.
Today we're about to build a shadoof which can transport water from one place to another.
Make it so it's even different.
They were on a very dry area, so they didn't get enough water for their crops. So they used the shadoof to get water to their crops. Mesoamerica, that was so much fun. We had a feast. We made the Aztec food. We got to research it.
What we're doing right here is we're doing a simulation of the Aztec Flowery War. And basically what that is a war that they used to have in Aztec times.
It's like a planned battle where the different Calpulis, they fought each other, but not to conquer land or anything, just to take prisoners or to take prisoners for sacrifices.
So we had to make an Egyptian game that represents the beliefs, economics, institutions, language, and arts.
In the Ancient Inventions curriculum, we present students with a problem that a culture faced. In order to solve that problem, they have to engage in the engineering process.
We're going to be designing a windmill, and we have to make it spin by the force of wind.
The students get character cards, and it explains the role of, say, a merchant or a scholar. This is the role that they're going to play throughout the adventure.
Hi, my name is Suraj. I'm an engineer, and I built this shadoof with my group.
I'm a scribe. I write poetry, and I manage treasury for the Caliph.
I am a religious scholar and an astronomer. I teach the muezzin how to read the sun so that he could pick the perfect times of prayer.
So this is called open sandboxing. This is where you explore, kids are essentially building their own universes.
Right now, we're saving the Earth from Sedna, which is a mini planet. It is coming towards Earth, as you can see, and eventually it'll crash into Earth and destroy all of humanity. So we're trying to stop it. I tried to make both of them the mass of one Earth, and Sedna took over Earth. Just try one move. Yeah, I know, that's what I'm trying.
There, that's a good orbit right there.
Wait, what if we just give them 2 different orbit cycles?
That's what I was trying to say. I think that works.
So then they could just cross over each other.
So let's see, that one's that. No, but that one's still on that orbit. That's good, that's good, that's good, that's good. And now this one is on that orbit.
Yeah.
Go, hit it.
I'm guessing that something that has more mass has more gravity, so this was still moving towards it, but this was moving faster.
So they're going through the scientific process there, coming up with theories, predictions, sharing them,
Continents
perfecting
were
them.
separated and you have to connect them together. Then you have a moving device where you can spin the continent around to help it connect. And then you also have a sonar. Then these will help you find fossils, which fossils can connect to other continents.
So this is using the leap motion. It detects full motion of the hand and the finger.
For this one, you need to pull the tectonic plates apart in the game, and that's what makes the Earth better.
The game taught me that convergent means to go together, and since volcanoes rise, the magma rises too, and the game gave me a visual like the magma rises up, and that's when it erupts. It doesn't only use our mind, but it also uses physical ways so we can remember.
And so,
Settlers of Catan. It's a chance for us to dig into math as we talk about probability. Placing settlements in the game is directly related to the probability of outcomes with the dice.
We learned that you can't really run your culture without trade.
1 wood, 1 green, 1 sheep, and one brick.
This is pre-algebra. Kids learn pre-algebra without even realizing they're learning algebra.
There's a 1 and a negative 1, like there is the light version of the creature and dark version of the creature. They both cancel each other out, and it started looking like algebra.
There are negative numbers, like there's like variables, negative numbers, and positive numbers.
Yes! I did it! At every level you said, oh, how do I do this? And then you do it, and you don't know how you did it, and you have to go back and see, oh, that's what I did.
Dragon Box really taught me how to do algebra, and it's really fun in my opinion. Every week I ask for like 10 algebra questions. I love algebra.
You're here every day. The last 2 that I'm going to show here, this is proving that you can teach high school and early
It's all about kind of
college
like
level
what
physics
it's like to fly.
by
You see the
using
air
simulation and
molecules,
visualization
so
in the right
you can
way.
pretty much see
And we
how
did this
much
with Bill
lift
Nye,
you
the
have on
science
each
guy.
wing, and then gravity too.
You have to rotate the wings different ways.
Yeah, like up and down.
They collide with the wings, the air molecules, and it increases the lift vector.
Then there was some about banking.
When you lift one wing up and one wing down, then the lift is pushing up on one wing and pushing down on the other, so it's making your bird roll.
Okay, yeah, there's 2 more pieces here, and this is full embodiment. This is where, what better way to learn constant velocity than to move and have your plot tracked in real time. And then this is really where a lot of our work has been going recently, which is emotional
Students need to
intelligence.
understand themselves, their emotions, their relationships to their peers, their relationships to adults. When a student has anxiety or fear or nervousness, Dojo is one thing that they can go play.
My favorite level is the frustration maze. It's called the frustration maze because you get frustrated while you're playing it.
The ball gets smaller and bigger based on your heart rate, and you can't touch any of the red outline of the maze.
You have to calm yourself down, but you're anxious to get past it. It practices how to calm you down, so then when you're in the real world, you can calm yourself down the same way that you did.
It teaches me how to deal with problems, or like self-conscious thoughts that I have about myself and imperfections that I have about myself. And it really teaches me how to transform them into, you know, good thoughts about myself, or just changing those self-conscious thoughts so that I have no reason to have them anymore because I've changed.
Okay, that's a good point to end on there. Thank you.
Thank you, Lucian.
Thank you.
And I think you can see with what Lucian's doing, this is the future. And whether it's Game Desk, we have the Institute of Play here with Robert, we have extraordinary thinkers that are moving the ball. No person I'd rather have finish up this panel than my friend Undersecretary Ted Mitchell, who in a previous life ran New School Venture Funds, which was the incubator for so much of the good stuff that we're seeing out there. And now, as the Undersecretary, is pushing our federal government to think through new ways to innovate, including First in the World grants. So, Ted?
Great, thanks, Alan. Wow, thank you. This is really incredible and not a little bit hard to think about going back to Washington tomorrow. Think about some of the words that we heard today, right? So we heard shaping their own destiny in the world. We heard compassion, we heard inspiration, we heard soul. We heard curiosity, acceptance of cultures that are different, open, engaged, ignited. Connecting to activities and thereby opening the person. Think back to 7th grade. What do you think? Was your 7th grade experience all of those things? No, not mine. And I think that the problem that we're dealing with right now in the world of public policy, but also in the world of education practice, is a growing disjuncture between what we know is right, and right in several ways. We know it's right because when you heard kids tackling incredibly difficult issues about themselves and who they are and how they fit in the world and what else is out there in the world, and you know, what does music represent about different cultures and different communities. It's right to have students working on those issues. And it's right to have them working on them at an age where we used to think kids incapable of dealing with those issues. We know better now. It's right also because the research increasingly tells us that these techniques are more effective than the techniques that we've used since Hammurabi was putting lesson plans into clay tablets with a stylus. And we know that it works in two very different but complementary ways. We know that deeper engagement with material that accesses parts of students' brains in different ways through different vectors is more comprehensive and makes those neural connections at just a higher volume. And so the likelihood of stuff staying in place and shaping the deep brain is more possible more of the time. And so we can teach things like algebra in different ways that are really engaging, that help kids develop those pathways that will stick with them, not just stick with them to the next exam. But I think where these guys are headed is someplace even deeper than that. It's about not just doing what we think we need now, but it's about creating a system of education that connects to people in ways that can help us as a species be different, act differently, think about knowing and consciousness and collaboration and community in different ways. And that's what I think the far frontier is. So how do we get there? So I think we probably need to work through this from the let's do the things that we say we want to do now better. And we need to invest in innovations in an incremental way that can bring more of this stuff into more environments where students learn, whether that's the home, whether that's nonprofit organizations in communities, or whether that's in schools. And it's here that I think that we have the biggest opportunity, because what's the real vector of education in American society? It's the classroom teacher. And so what I saw up there with a part of my head that used to be a dean of a school of education, not this one, the one that has different colors across town, was that for centuries, teachers have been using hand tools to try to accomplish all the things that they need to accomplish. What we just saw was a vision of power tools. And we need to start today to build training programs around the use of these tools in the classrooms that our student teachers, our novice teachers, will lead. Because unless we have that vector in our hands, we're just going to be playing at the margins. And that was our biggest frustration at the New Schools Venture Fund, is that lots of great entrepreneurs doing really exciting things, but really playing at the margins. And occasionally something would go viral, and that would be great, but it wouldn't be systemically integrated into the work of schools. And I think that that's our big challenge. So one place to do that is through teacher education, and another place to do it, I think, is in changing the way we think about what it means to succeed in school. And I'll stop here. Put all of that and all of these words that we've talked about into juxtaposition with how we know a student is a high school graduate. We know a student is a high school graduate because they've completed a certain number of units that are delivered in certain periods of time, because you've been able to sit in a chair for that length of time and do a modicum of work. We need to change the way we think about assessment. We need to think about the way we challenge ourselves to open the door to competencies rather than credit hour. And we're going to need brave, adventurous schools and school systems to start to do that. And I see part of our job, a big part of our job in Washington, as getting out of the way of those fundamental experiments, whether they are at the classroom level, at the teacher preparation level, or at the school and district level. And I hope that the new holder of the chair can help us get there.
Thank you, Ted. So now I get to be entrepreneurial, because I've received a note that we're going to be in big trouble, and I will lose my chair, and that again will get John and Alicia not happy, and the dean will not be happy, and she'll even take away my desk and my office, all those things. I wanted to ask a number of questions. This will be an interactive dialogue. We're going to try and put up a website where we can continue this discussion. So much interesting happening right here in LA. Mary Helen thinking about music, the kinds of research she's been doing. Not just 1 year, 4 or 5 years of studying kids in terms of the impact of music in their brains.
The impact of stories, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, so we're following them longitudinally from age 13 to age 18.
And whether it's when we watch the Academy Awards and we see political statements about Selman, and we see questions over whether a film should be given a whole different perspective in terms of how LBJ was treated, these are all entertainment literacy. So again, my apologies that this is not going to finish right now, but it will be an ongoing interactive dialogue. And if you'll indulge me, and we'll walk over to Town and Gown and continue the discussion. Thank you.